Welcome to South Florida Writers Association Authors Showcase. South Florida Writers Association is a nonprofit organization supporting writers. And today I will be literally speaking with Meg Nocero. Hi, Meg. Welcome.
Hey, Ceci, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. All right. So I've got a lot of questions and we have a lot to talk about. But first, let's get into who you are. I'm going to describe you and you can add on to that because I know that you are a powerhouse and you have so much under your belt. Okay. So Meg is an author, 3 books, correct?
Yep.
3 books. Meg is an author. Meg is a speaker, TEDx as well.
Yep.
And Meg is also a happiness coach,
Yep.
former federal litigator.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, that sounds great.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on. And I'm really excited to share with the audience everything that you have for us today. So I do want to start by asking, because this is a question that I've known you for a while now,
Yeah.
but I want to know exactly when you decided that you wanted to write.
Oh wow. Well, I'm a journaler. I love to write in my journals, have since I was a kid. So I mean, everyone thinks there needs to be this official moment when, but I used to pour it out on the page all the time in my diaries. And that is literally where it started. And I remember even when I was a kid, I did play in the realm of fiction. I wrote a series for my sisters called Hello Fellow, and it was really very cute. It was like a, short little book, but I wrote like 4 of them, and I was just like, oh my God, this is great. I love this. And, you know, I don't know where we lose our desire to write, right? I think that we start getting lost in the rules and technicalities of what we think is the right thing to do, and it kind of kills the creative edge. So I don't know, when it came back in full force, with my desire to actually write books, it became more something along the lines of cathartic, a healing. And I think that a lot of people that you talk to, certainly these days, go to the page to heal a lot of the past.
Yeah, absolutely. When was that? When did you feel that you needed to start that healing journey through the channel of writing?
Yeah, I have really started the process. It was, I want to say, after I had kids, because, it becomes very chaotic life and there's always a need to find calm in the chaos. And I would wake up in the morning and, exercise on a stationary bike, and I would write full 3 pages of morning pages. I don't know if you're familiar with the Artist's Way, but full 3 pages. I think actually the Artist's Way came after my mom passed away because I was looking for modalities to help me heal from the loss, to transform from the loss. But I remember also, always finding a safe outlet in journaling, and it became literally the thing that saved me, and it still does. I always feel a sense of release when I sit down and give myself that magical time to welcome whatever genius wants to speak through me.
Yes, yes. And we're going to talk more about the book that's specifically written about your mom, but that was not the first one. So let's get into the first one, which
Yep.
was, got it right here, The Magical Guide to Bliss.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us
She
about,
has an original too. There's a second edition now, but it's because Ceci was very, very fundamental in picking the title for that, and actually kind of directing me into where I wanted to take that. So yeah, that is that's 2015 now that was published. So
yeah.
it's been 10 years, a little over 10 years.
Well, tell us about it. What inspired you to write it?
So, like I said before, when my mother passed away, I really was lost, and I was advised, by a good friend of mine who happened to be a therapist too, that sometimes when you lose someone, the best way to walk through grief or navigate it, however you want to see it, is to talk to them as if they're still here and have a dialogue. Well, the dialogue for me was on the page. I would postulate the question that I would want, and I would freehand what I would imagine my mother would tell me. And it turned into daily insights. It turned into emails I would send to my friends, things that I would contemplate and guidance, imagine guidance. It's a guide, to get me through whatever I was going through at the time. And it turned into a daily guide. It starts in January. We're here in January. Carpe Diem sees the day, and then it ends in December. Magical, awe-inspiring, magical miracles. And I have to say, the most beautiful thing from that experience, and I've learned to allow to send it out into the world. And if it can help someone, then I'm very grateful. But it really helped me. It really helped me because ultimately, when I was published, I followed my own magical guide to bliss because I really was feeling at that point in time in my life like that suffering creative, right, where I was a lawyer, I was a litigator, and there was so much more creative to me than that, and it allowed me to play in that world, which is, I think, the greatest gift we as humans get to do, is to play in our creative imagination, which really is back to when I was a kid again. I used to, I mean, I don't know anybody out there who played with Barbie dolls, but I used to create worlds, through my dolls. And those worlds turned into stories, and those stories turned into something of flights of fancy. And it's interesting because while I had like short things when I was a kid, these stories, I got to write my first fiction in the Wonder anthology just now, which was really exciting because I generally write nonfiction, prescriptive, and memoir. So this was kind of taking my imagination to the next step. But I will say this, following my magical guide really did open me to a whole different path to my bliss, to what makes me come alive, to my reason for being here.
Absolutely. And it does help people. I know that it does because even I've been witness to when you have the book on display at some of the fairs and you do something really fun with this when
Yeah.
they come and look at your book. And
Yes.
I've seen when they read whatever page number they pick, right?
Yes.
And they read the excerpt and they say, wow, I really needed this. And I've
Yeah.
seen that happen over and over. So
Yeah.
this was not only healing for you, it's healing for others. And again, we're all one, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like you wrote this to heal yourself, but you in the process are really helping others as well, which I think is your purpose, or at least one
Yeah.
of your purposes is through your writing and of course through your speaking as well. But speaking of your books, is really helping, resonating, right, with others, and sort of allowing whatever needs to be healed to surface through your writing. So
Yeah.
it's not just writing. We don't write just for ourselves. We write for others. Although they say we write for others, but we actually are writing for ourselves. So we're really writing for both. I mean, we're healing, like I said, and just understanding that we're all one. So this is fantastic. And can you explain what it is that you do when someone looks at your book at the fairs, when you're displaying it?
Yes.
Can you, because it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And I actually have one of my cards. It's a little butterfly card. And on the other side, I have them write down their intention for the year, for the month, for the day, something that, when they sit, I love that. Listen to the bray of your heart. If they sit and listen to the bray of their heart, to the beat of their heart, what is calling to them? Just take a moment when they pass by my table. And I have them write it down, and then I have them pick a number that would resonate with them. And then we open up the page, and then that's the insight that person will take with them on their journey to bliss.
Yeah,
So, yeah, no, I think the magical part of it comes from an acknowledgement that we can have desires, we can have intentions, and we can follow the path of our dreams. And it's really a giving a person permission not only to be human as we do walk that path, but also permission to dream big. Because a lot of people stay in their small little cubbies, their small little space. And I think, the whole idea of the magical guide is allowing or like, giving people that permission to dream something impossible that could unfold if they tried, if they just started to have a internal belief in that in themselves.
of course. And it's so necessary because we live in a fear-based society
Yeah.
that completely dims our magic.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that's the purpose of, the belief systems and the programming is just for that, right? To keep us under some sense of control. And so what you've done here is, you're trying to wake people up to their magic. And I think that's what you're all about. You're all about the magic. You're all about the bliss,
Yeah.
because that's what I think that's what the whole purpose is. We didn't come here to not have a magical time. It's as it is, it's magical that we are here to begin with, right?
Totally. Yes.
So yeah, so this is I love this book. It's so beautiful. I mean, this should be like not just a guide. This is almost like a happy Bible type of a journal. It's a beautiful manuscript. And it's beautiful physically as well. Like the art. I know you said you have a second edition, but this is I love this one.
Well, the second edition has the tiara, of course. I had to put the tiara on my
Yes,
head.
of course, of course. And
Of
I think
course.
that, it's funny because I think when we write a book, that's why there's like a lot of authors have second editions, even third editions,
Yeah.
because we grow and
Yeah.
then we want to go back and integrate, what we've learned and how we've grown back into it. Like we think it deserves it. So we go back. So I love the tiara. It's almost like, oh, now she found her
Yeah.
queenness. So
Well,
she's
also when you put a tiara on your head, you stand a little taller. And even if it's not
absolutely.
really there, your imaginary one, you'll stand taller. You'll hold yourself very differently. And there's something, I'm also right now getting my doctorate in happiness studies and the science of
Yes,
well-being. And there's a component, it's a mind-body integration. And it's when we hold, and you know this too, because in your practice, the way you hold yourself is so important. It's the way you hold yourself while you go into a room speaks to your body, like, and the mere idea of a pose, a power pose or a confident pose or a surrender pose, like all of these bodily movements will unfold into emotional processing in your body, which, if you think that's not magic, I don't know. I think it's just sending signals to even your mitochondria,
of course.
that you're here to be here now and to be present and experience it all now. And you get to choose if you bring magic into the room or not. So, I know it's so funny because I have a very logical side as a lawyer and then very creative side as an artist, which I like to say that I am an artist because I think it's been enough years now that I feel it. That I invite other people to join me there. And I think that we all are creatives in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I love the collaboration. Like with the two of us, our interconnected story is amazing, and the incredible synchronicities that unfold because both of us are paying attention has turned into not only a healer-patient relationship, but also good friends walking this journey together, which I couldn't be more grateful for. So, you know,
Absolutely. And I feel the same way. And you were talking about, we're all here to create. And I always think we were created,
hmm,
we were created in the form of the creator, right? It's all about creation from the very beginning,
yeah,
right? We call God, whether you believe or not, or call it, you know, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, it's still the creator. I mean, all the creation came from there. And if that is the beginning and the end of all, it's everything is creating.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful. I love to, like, you know, go down that rabbit hole of
Oh,
create,
please
because
take
it's
me with
never,
you, Alice, right?
I'm
Because
sorry.
you're writing a book on Alice.
Oh yeah,
I
exactly.
love, love,
Yeah.
love.
And I think that, I mean, this is one of the reasons I love Alice in Wonderland, because I think there is so much more depth to it than meets the eye when you just, you know, read
Of
the original
course.
story. I mean, I really do think there is that rabbit hole. As well, as we can see now, it's sort of like trendy, like people say, oh, we're going down the rabbit hole of, you know, whatever it is they're
Of
talking about,
course.
whatever subject. But anyway, back to you. Tell us now about the second book.
So my second book I wrote was is called Sparkle and Shine, and it is 108 mantras to brighten your day and lighten your way. And I'm very much into the neuroscience of affirmations, mantras, and repeating over and over that which you want to set in your neural pathways, so in your brain. So I personally think affirmations, you can pick your fave, or you can start with whatever that sounds good to you, could play around with them. But I'm a big advocate of speaking life to your essence, your body, you know, your mind, body, spirit, once again, for you to take on life differently. And especially when you spiral down into negativity and sadness and all of the wonderful parts of being human that we don't necessarily love, but are necessary perhaps because that release comes through tears sometimes. But also the release, the rock bottom, whatever that may redirect you, right? Correct you into perhaps something that is really quite amazing that's just waiting for your life that maybe you wouldn't have chosen had you not hit if you get that. So affirmations for me, and I'll just refer to, I'll open it up to, because the book is separated in three parts: ask, believe, and receive. And you know, I do believe in the ask and make it as big as you like, but then also coupled with the believe, that I believe that I'm worthy or I deserve to not only ask but also the component receive
Yes.
and welcome it in. So I'm going to open up to number 9. Oh,
Okay.
here we go. I mean, sorry, 79. And that mantra is, I have faith in life as it unfolds before me. And, you know, that's very surrenderish, right? You know, it's like, and there's actually a quote with this one. Not all of them have quotes according, but this one does. And it says, that which is in you, impelling you forward, is in the things and people you need, impelling them towards you. And that's Wallace Wattles. He's an American New Thought writer. But that's true. So, you know, I do a little bit of you know, and this is all about the law of attraction, says that you will attract into your life whatever you focus on. And I really think that this is kind of timely for the beginning of New Year, kind of like coming into the, oh my God, I do love this. And I know some people might think it's too woo-woo, but the year of the passion horse, right? I mean, that's super exciting, especially from what we feel that 2025 may have felt like, you know, what breaks you open, right? But we get to choose what we want to focus on now. So I would rather focus in the playground of joy and love and fun, and a lot of these mantras and this sparkle and shine, it comes with cards. I do have cards too with this one, so I get a little fun with regard to that. Um, but it's really short, sweet, and to the point. And like I said, you know, have faith in how the world unfolds to you is quite a beautiful um, point of view, because not only are you asking, but you get out of your own way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You must surrender. But you know
Yes.
what's so beautiful about what you were saying, you know, when you hit like rock bottom,
Yeah.
the way that I learned it through experiences, uh, it's almost like it's a, well, not almost, it is a circle. Okay. So like the the extent, right? The lowest of the lowest is the beginning of the highest. Okay.
Mm.
So it's like the yin and the yang, right? At the end of the yin, it begins to turn into the yang. And then at the end of the yang, it begins to turn into the yin.
Yeah.
And I always say that the common denominator here is love. for
Mm.
example, with grief, grief is just love, right? Everything is comes down to love, because you can't grieve something you didn't love. You can't grieve something that, the loss of it didn't affect you.
Yeah.
So it's love at almost, I want to say, at its lowest point, even though I don't like to give, lowest anything to
Yeah.
the idea of love. But it's sometimes you've got to get down there to, pick you back up. But we do need tools like your cards and your books. We need that. I mean,
Yeah.
people go to therapy so that someone can tell them, something to pick them up, to
Yeah.
remind them. And this is what you're doing in your books, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, your purpose is amazing, and you know
Well,
that.
I think it's the I think that, certainly the shift up, like I was talking about the spiral up. Like we talk about in my doctorate program, MVIs, minimal viable interventions, right? And I think that, especially when someone feels like they're so in the dumps they can't even pick their head up. An MVI would be just put your shoes on and get out of bed, put your slippers on even, or just and put your feet on the ground and like, oh, I'm alive, just recognize, just sit in that awareness. Okay, I might be alive and not feeling great, but I'm alive, so at least we have something to work with today. But my whole point with regard to that is, I think that every little tiny shift towards something better, we have ebbs and flows. Things go up and they go down, right? And you dance with it or you fight it.
Right.
And, at this kind of point in my life, I want to dance with it more. And for me, this is my jam. And it's because I need it, because I need it. That's why, because I need it. And it's, something that helps me live my life more fruitfully for sure.
Well, absolutely. And I think that a lot of us are in survival mode, like you were saying, just getting out of bed and putting your shoes
Yeah.
on and we're good. I think a lot of us live in survival mode. And I think what you're
Yeah.
trying to say is we want to get out of survival, and we don't want to just survive. We want to thrive. We want there
Yeah.
to be joy. We want there to be more. And we deserve it. And a lot of people
Yeah.
feel like, well, if I'm alive, I just should be grateful that I'm alive, and that's enough. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that the universe, God, source wants there to be more for us, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the purpose, because like I said, there's so much depth to everything that if you're just going to stay on the surface level, I mean, that's,
I
and so
agree.
we need tools like these. So thank you for putting this out there.
Thank you.
Definitely have
I think it's so funny because I am the kind of person who likes to complicate everything, and it's just so simple. When I get down to what simply works for me and, can share that with another person, I think that's where also the magic can happen because, how I love this part because they say, do no, know that thing that you love that makes you feel alive, that you're passionate about, do more of that because the world needs more people who are passionate and love what they do and bring good to this world. So with that, I'm such a advocate of, your skills, your talents, your everything, your service to the world might be completely different than mine, but don't stop doing that for
right.
the good of others because we interconnect, we collaborate, and we do have a way of shining a bigger and brighter light by lighting someone else's
Of
candle.
course. And it's
Yeah.
infectious when
In
you're
fact,
feeling passionate and joyful, just like they have
yeah.
videos of a person that pretends that they're laughing on the train.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen
Yes.
that, or on the
Yes.
subway. Then the
Yes.
person next to them begins to laugh, and then the other one begins to laugh, and before you know it, the entire train is cracking up, right?
Yeah.
And what a feeling, right? When
What a
everybody
feeling.
is sharing that same frequency.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I, like I was saying before, I think you've got your purpose really detailed and carved out for
Well,
you.
then, it's so funny because right now I'm looking at it's a component where we all can be alone in this world or we can find people who like shine with us, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about books. And I found this after speaking, people wanted my book to take a piece of me home because they wanted a little bit of that excitement, that contagious, exuberance, right? Because you know what? I mean, it's hard enough like getting through the day sometimes, and that oh, I remember, and that mindful recollection of a time where you felt like anything was possible because someone said something to get excited about, and you're just like, and you go right back there. That is a beautiful thing about books because and the authors that people love because you are really putting out a vulnerability to the world with your words, and then maybe they're going to start to write something that their audience can only read because of your impact on their life.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. And tell us about your third book.
So my third book is called Butterfly Awakens. It's a memoir of transformation through grief, right? About the butterfly. Obviously, each book has a lot of butterflies on them, but butterfly signifies transformation. For me, this story is what happened when I followed the magical guide to bliss. And it goes into my origin story. It tells, what happened when my mother passed away, and then it tells what happened to me afterwards. And I love this. The universe shakes you to wake you, and I needed to be really shaken up. And I'm a manifester by trade. I like to say that much more than lawyer. I truly believe in the power of intentional thinking and on the inspired action as well. So, nobody just, voila, has a book written. You got to sit down at the page and you have to welcome the guided, intuition hits or whatever you want to call it. And you have to do it until you get to the very end, until the story feels like it's done. And then you thank the creative gods, and then you find a really good editor to help you figure that out. And then you hopefully meet your audience there. So with memoir, this memoir is, personal story. It's a lot of, I do believe in bringing people into the emotion of the experience. I'm definitely a show, not tell. I show through explaining the emotions. And it was really of me losing my mom, how difficult that was for me, and then losing myself, which, nobody really wants to lose themselves in this world. You kind of want to have a pattern or path to stick to. And I just really lost myself. And then I found people who helped guide me back to myself again. So that is ultimately ending on the Camino at the end. So yeah.
Yes, this book is amazing. I want to ask you, because I'm sure as you were writing this book, you had to revisit a lot of the emotional
Yeah.
phases from when your mother was going through what she was going through,
Yeah.
till she transitions. And, I read this book and it made me very emotional. And I still had my mom at that
Yeah.
time. And it made me emotional. So, how difficult or not difficult was it for you to have to revisit that? Because I imagine, and I know this as an author, I mean, the best work we put out there is really allowing ourselves to get into the emotion, right? That's
Yeah.
why artists, their best work is when they're going through either the anger
Yeah.
or they're grieving because they're transmuting that emotion. So I'm sure you must have felt,
Yeah.
going through these different phases. So tell us about that a little bit.
Well, for me, chapter 8, it's chapter 8. It's chapter 8. I having to write the loss of my mother, there was, it's not a re-injuring over and over again, but it's a re-experiencing over and over again. And it's interesting because you can see how you've healed when you can go back and read it and it doesn't have the same torturous effect as it did when you initially wrote it. That's a beauty of writing because you can see where you are in your life by the virtue of the words that you chose. Um, I will say this, I didn't want to sugarcoat it, and I don't really appreciate when authors sugarcoat it. Like me and this person didn't get along very well, and we're friends now, but we didn't get along, but we're really good friends now. No, I want to hear what that person, like, how that did impacted you, and then how it really had you think about your life differently, and then certainly with regard to my mom, transitioning, past the veil, you know. I don't think you can really experience it unless you experience it. And I imagine right now, even speaking to you, having lost your mom, it's a different experience altogether than it was, oh, this is nice, but I feel it, but I don't feel it. And then you're like, oh, I feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a club that you don't want to be a part of, but it's a necessary part of the human experience. So, and I don't mean to minimize that. I just realized that, we don't all get out alive, right? That's the one common denominator. We were born and we die, and everything in the middle, the dash, is what we get to make of it, certainly with all the challenges that come up. So, with regard to the writing of that, I was very, I love the movies. So, I wrote it as if it were a screenplay in my head and on the page. Well, it's not a screenplay yet, but that's how I wrote it. I wanted to experience there, the place and the feelings and the everything there. And I think that really good writers and my mentor writers, certainly have taken me there in my mind. I can go to Italy if I wanted to, by virtue of someone's words. And in this particular instance, I took everybody on the Camino de Santiago and Compostela in Spain as I experienced that pilgrimage walk. And I wanted them to experience it with me because it wasn't easy. It was life transforming. And, if it does one or two things, maybe, they have a need to go themselves, or they don't have to because I already did it and they got to experience with me. So I think that's the beauty of authorship, especially how people write, the language they choose. It's the story, how it unfolds through your.
Absolutely. But with writing a book about your mom and her passing, I think that two things can happen here, and not independent of each other. But the way that you heal from having to revisit,
Hmm. Yeah.
you see the difference of how you were and how you are now, which you just spoke about. But do you find also that it gives you a chance to sort of be there again at that moment in a joyful way as well? It's almost like, if okay, you're perhaps writing a chapter of
Yeah.
a specific incident, and you get to be there again with your mom because you're so, you're so involved, you're so into it at the emotional level, that it's almost as if you're in that moment again. And did it feel like, okay, so I've got my mom again for this chapter, for example?
Oh, wow.
There are many chapters, but did you feel that, okay, I'm with her right now because I'm writing this chapter, and I feel so connected to her? Did you find that as well?
I'm gonna say I'm appreciating your comment right now because it makes me smile thinking that that might be an opportunity for me. I never thought about it like that. Like that I have her still in chapter 8. I it's funny because you know, there's no bow. You don't finish memoir or a story or anything that, you put your heart and soul into and you wrap it up with a bow and then be done and move on. And next chapter, right? Everything is kind of built on top of others, right? So, a lot of times I'll want to go back and remember her fully alive, which I think I found her there on the Camino more than I found her there in the hospital room. So I will say this. I appreciate your point of view. I didn't think about it that way. That's a great interviewing question. So, wonderful, Ceci. But well, this is interesting. I just put it out in audiobook form. So hearing it read to me is such a different experience? So I think thinking back when I was editing the audio book, because I didn't read it, I taped like 3 parts, but the actual meat of the book, I had an author read it for, I'm sorry, a narrator read it for me. Yes, it was surreal when I was listening to it that way. It was very surreal. Like, and I think I don't know any authors out there who write memoir. I think I'm really proud of myself that I had the courage to even go there so that I could release perhaps the emotions so that I could move on into my life.
Absolutely. It does take courage to go to such a place and space of such grief, right? And
Yeah.
torture even, right? Because it's, you're
Mhm.
helpless. You can't help. There's nothing that you can do. And
Yeah.
I think that that feels like torture, you
Well,
know?
it's interesting because right now I'm writing it as a Broadway musical. So I'm taking scenes and a lot of, poetic license, I will say, to put it into song, which for me life is much easier when you put a soundtrack behind it. So, we watch those movies like Rocky and they're like da da da. We all know those theme songs. Well, in our lives, we can have theme songs as well that push us through the challenging times. So, in my head, when I write, there's always a musical soundtrack, dun 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 dun, dun or the Jaws. Like, I'm not saying those soundtracks, but everyone has their own personal sound list, right? Sound, the like
A
playlist for sure.
playlist, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's really kind of cool when you sit down and you see you have the bones of what will be, and then there's something else that comes to light too, which is really exciting because, you know, um, there's in Sufism, there's whirling dervishes. They spin, right?
Mhm.
I'm a huge spinner. I've always loved to spin. When I learned about whirling dervishes, so they go into a state of ecstasy, right? They spin and they just keep going. And I think it is a way for us to allow, it's kind of like contemplation or like some kind of way to allow us to kind of go in union, the unity with, us and the divine, if that's, because you're
Yeah.
doing something that's repetitive, like the mantras or like the, different mandalas or rosaries, or it's repetitive, the humming, chanting, like that stuff. So for me, the first scene is a little girl whirling, swirling, whirling, whirling, because there's a bit of ecstasy that comes with that movement, like back to the mind body integration. And
Yeah.
that starts off my musical in
Well, what's
Butterfly
really
Weekend.
beautiful about that is that the spiral movement is the creation of everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything. If you break
healing.
open a pine cone, a fruit, a flower, if you look into the depth of it, it
Yeah,
all starts with a spiral because
yeah,
that's what brings the momentum that can transform.
yeah.
So it's really
Oh
beautiful
wow.
that you talk about that because I work with that a lot with the
Oh
quantum
wow.
spin
Oh,
in
I love that.
in my
Yeah.
quantum practice. And everything stems from the spin.
The
The
spin.
planets are spinning,
Ah,
I mean, we can take it on a macrocosmic
yeah.
level down to a microcosmic level, and it's all about the spin. It's
Yeah.
all about the spiral,
Isn't it
right?
true though?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little while ago, about the circle and the yin and the yang and what
Yeah.
transform at the extent of transforms into the other at the other extent. So it's all about that. It's all about, the spiral and the momentum of that spin. So that's actually very beautiful.
Yeah.
Even
Oh,
the
I love that.
storms, the tornadoes, for example,
Clean.
they're spinning, right? It's what imagine the force that comes with a tornado due to just that motion. So
Powerful.
powerful
Yeah.
is that to apply to
How powerful.
anything, right?
Yeah. That's
Even, well, I don't want
amazing.
to say this, but if I'll just say it. But even when we think about sexual intercourse, okay, um,
Okay.
and I won't get into it, but the motion of the of the spiral motion or the circular motion is what creates the most momentum and heat. And what comes out of that, or what can come out of that? I mean, what is the purpose of that if it's not, you know, to have that explosion of ecstasy that can create a life,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
right?
if we're
So,
talking about creation and life, I mean, that's nothing more beautiful than that at its very foundationals. I
yes.
mean, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing, and it's a part of nature. And my book, when I went out to walk the Camino, was to be one with nature. We separate ourselves so much, you know, by virtue of modernization. We don't walk anymore, and we don't. That was really profound, and you know, I only need so much of nature. So it was like, yeah, it was like that, but that goes back to the wonderful balance of life where we find our center for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What a beautiful subject this has
I
turned into.
know,
I love
I
it.
know, I
It's
know.
really beautiful. So tell us about this doctorate in happiness coaching.
So it's I met up with a group, Happiness Studies Academy, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. He's a former Harvard professor who taught the most popular happiness course there. And from that place he teaches the SPIRE model, which stands for spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and you know, and emotional, the SPIRE model. And you know how all of those parts are so important to the human being, you know, and in a whole being context, you know, of that whole being notion of, you know, why are we here? What's our purpose? You know, grander purpose. So, you know, and I love how, you know, he talks about a lot, and what we learn about is certainly, you know, how to be happier. You know, you're not happy and it's done, you know. It's like every day, you know, we have different levels of where we are. But for me, I did the certificate program, then I did the master's program. I just graduated this last May, and they just introduced the pioneer doctorate in happiness studies, and its foundationals are on Aristotle's eudaimonia, what is the good life. And a lot of the students who are studying with me, we come from so many different places internationally. We come with so many different ideas as to what we want to do for our dissertation, a lot of different backgrounds, you know, legal backgrounds, you know, philosophical, positive psychology. There's a lot of that. But the coolest thing about the happiness studies doctorate is that, you know, a lot of the notion about researching the academic, you know, foundationals to support everything that I've written in these books, The Magical Guide to Bliss, the Affirm Sparkle and Shine, even Butterfly Awakens, that whole transformational process. What I'm doing now, and I'm kind of playing with two different ideas. First idea is about musical storytelling and how music really does, when you're mindful, impact your life in such a positive way. I mean, if you think about it, when you hear a song, it takes you back to a time of your life where maybe you felt young and alive, and actually being in that moment hits your physical state. You can actually get younger by virtue of listening to the music, be talking about those times, experiencing the moment. And actually, there's an author, she's also a doctorate from Harvard, Ellen Langer, and she talks about, you know, it's counterclockwise. It's when they did a study of certain men for 7 days. They tested their vitals before and after, and at the end of the day, when they were living a life as if they were in their younger stage, their vitals all improved after 7 days. So it's that whole mind body integration. And the other conceptually I'm trying to play with is ally spotting. And what is that? That is paying attention to your intuition to find yourself with allies in your life, people who, when you're not feeling at your highest, you know, they help and they lift you. And then also people, when you're doing certain things, they are your biggest advocates and champions, and you also being that ally for others. And I think in many ways we kind of show up in spaces very numb to what's happening. And then there's those times we pay attention and are very mindful as to the messengers and also the message. And when we're mindful, you know, game on, right? When you're mindful, game on. Your whole life changes by virtue of how you perceive other things. So those are the two worlds I'm looking at. It's very exciting because I feel like I'm at this cutting edge. Everybody in the world wants to be happier. They call it the ultimate currency, you know, not money, not success, but just being happier with people you love and making memories, and, you know, being in the moment, and understanding uncertainty, not through the eyes of fear, but through the eyes of possibility. So
Right. The new rich is, happiness.
the new rich and a good night's sleep, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talking about here very specifically is about being present is
Yeah,
key, right? Being mindful and being
mine.
present. And it's so hard because we fail to realize, a lot of us, it's really a hard task to stay in the present moment, but we fail to realize that the present moment is all that really exists.
Yeah,
All that really, the past is gone. We have memory of the past, but it's not there. We can't go back and change it.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
future is same. We can't get in there and change it. I mean, this is all we have, right?
yeah, right.
This
You're
is
right.
as real as it gets. And another thing is that life is not a drill. We get this one chance. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It's not a drill. We're not going to get a second. So it's really important to be mindful and to really be perceptive of your surroundings, really sort of just become one with everything around you and with your experience. Otherwise, it just goes by. And you were talking, when we were talking about the book, Butterfly Awakens, and you went and you were talking about the audiobook, and you said what a different experience listening
yeah,
to it, a different experience healing from it, a different experience going back and connecting with it. So many different levels that if
yeah,
we're not mindful and we're not in the present moment, we can't experience those, and that's so important. And it's as if we're going deeper and deeper. I think that's one purpose in life, is like find a way to go deeper, deeper, instead of going outside for
yeah.
acknowledgement or outside to, feel whatever
Oh,
it is that you want to feel. It's we just got to go deeper. There's so many different deeper levels. It's never ending. And I think that that's so important. And it can't happen unless you are being present and aware of everything that's happening at the moment, especially even with your own body. We
yeah,
ignore our bodies so much, right? We take it for granted, and we don't, there's an exercise where we touch our hands or we touch our face, and we touch our shoulder, we touch our skin, and we can talk to our bodies. And we don't do that. We just take it for granted. Oh, this is my
yeah.
skin. It looks so dry today. I'm going to put cream. But we're not even really acknowledging what it's doing for us and that it's part of us. Like, even to get in touch with ourselves a little deeper, it's so important to be present and mindful for everything, on all levels, in all aspects. So thank you for talking about that.
Yeah, no, I think, it's very interesting. One of the themes that keeps coming up over and over for me is really truly understanding my place in the world. And to do that, I have to understand my place for me, right? So I think that we're also interested, like I'm just touching on the points that you were talking about, is this need for external approval. Even as authors, we're like, oh my God, how many books have you sold? Oh my God, what number am I on the charts? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I did say this when I published. I was very scared because I'm a very harsh critic of myself. So I was afraid to put something out there that would be criticized as well because I put my heart and soul in it. And I think a lot of authors will speak to this. And I think that you turn it around and you say, wow, that mattered to me. That was, it makes me cry. I don't even know why. That was important for me to meet myself there on the page, especially with memoir, even though all of them, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get ripped apart or something or other thing. Or if I don't get traditionally published, oh my God, who am I as an author? No, no, no. I'm like, I've passed that page. I passed that part of what I thought I wanted for this bigger story that is my life. And I realize how many beautiful experiences that I have had because I decided to meet myself there. And I don't know if that you understand that to the point, because I know that you've written the spell, and that is a whole wonderful, light shining on the child Ceci, because it's fantasy and it's magical and it's another world. And I know how great that is for you because that it's a part of your story. That is fundamentally part of your story. That little girl who probably is so proud of her older self because you did that. And I think that for me, the whole idea behind, putting a a girl who it's basically the long cool woman in a black dress by the Hollies.
Yes,
That was the inspiration behind the picture, and then a tiara and the hair and everything, as if, just you going out into the world with your wand or your words, right? Your words have power. They're
absolutely.
powerful. That maybe you can make another life a little less burdened and more blissful.
Absolutely. That's so beautiful. I love the way that you put that into words there. So I want to know about your Broadway musical that you're working
Oh,
on.
yes.
I know you
I
said
got look at my Christmas. I got my piano. So it's interesting because I applied for the NYU screenwriting, modern screenwriting certification, and I got in. And I think that's going to really help, continue my path. And also, there's a wonderful app in Studio by Pasek and Paul that it's helping me write like my acts. So I've already worked out I have my where's the board?
I'm trying
Like,
to
yeah.
say,
Yeah. That's my yeah, my scene board. You can't
oh, your
really see
scene
it,
board.
but
Okay, I
yeah, my
can't see
scene
too
board.
clearly. I was trying to bring the
Yeah.
computer a little closer.
No, it's my scene board.
Okay,
Um,
beautiful.
but you know what? I learned piano when I was a kid and I'm
Oh,
teaching myself again. So cool. I don't
beautiful.
know. To make beautiful music is such a gift to yourself, Um, permission to show up in the world, bringing something beautiful is always something that I appreciate in others, certainly. And, maybe I'm not the best, but it doesn't matter. I'm having fun. So
Well, that's very exciting. So are you writing the music for your musical?
So I am, well, apparently, I didn't know this. There's like certain chords. Like if you listen to any songs, they all have the foundationals that are the same. All the different. So I have a sense. I mean, I'm a huge Broadway aficionada, you know that. I go to as many shows as I can, and I found the ones that when I leave elevate me. And I think imitation is the highest form of flattery, not plagiarism, but imitation, right? So taking that into consideration, I am incorporating that into a kind of Canterbury tale. So, and the musical takes place on the Camino with a lot of flashbacks to the protagonist's life as she walks her way to find this answer she's seeking. And the experience always is the journey.
How beautiful. That's so beautiful. I'm very excited for that. So
I
you have a lot
know.
of
I'm
things
like,
coming up.
well,
And
when you're writing, you're like, oh my God, stay tuned. You're like, no, no, no. Some days you can't stop. So you'll be up at 3 o'clock in the morning just writing away. Like, I can't stop. Or, it's like, stay tuned, stay tuned. What's next? Oh my God. So it's Butterfly Awakens, but it's different. It's a little different with, it's part three, really.
a
Part three
different
of it.
approach, a different level
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, and
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 little
it's fascinating because the NYU screenwriting the certificate has you looking at the poetics from Aristotle, like all these foundationals that you might know or might not know. I'm a huge movie fan too, right? So, I grew up with that. I grew up with storytellers. I am a storyteller, and you know, I do believe this for anyone who's even considering writing right now. The world is waiting for your story, only the way you can tell it. And if you feel compelled or impelled, like Wallace Waddle says, go out there and tell it in as many ways, speaking it or writing it or visualization. Somehow, I know your son's a huge movie person too. He's a director, you know, find your language, whatever that is, and do it because we really do need to tell good stories to be the impact that we want to see on this world for the better.
absolutely. And the healing that it brings to the readers,
Yes.
not to mention to ourselves, but to the
Yes.
readers. That's the purpose.
Yes.
So that's absolutely beautiful. So you have this musical that you're writing. and you have the doctorate in the happiness
Yes.
certification or course.
Yes.
What else do you have coming up?
Oh, I have my own show, Manifesting with Meg. I'm about to record my 150th episode and start my ninth season. This is very cool. I always theme my seasons and my years, and this year, shine to empower. And I do believe empowering effortlessly. And I like that because it's very woo way, the flow of water and be like water, instead of fighting uphill, flow with it. And I think that in a lot of ways, um, that empowers you because you, it's like step into the magical flow of your life. And so that is the theme of my next year. I haven't recorded it yet, but that will be up. I'm trying to find a time for my next Shine event. I do a nonprofit called Shine Networking, and it takes a lot, but I want to do another one with that as a theme, Shine to Empower. And empower means to make able to do something. It's so empower, power, we all know potere can, it's the Latin for can, but it's to empower is to, walking yourself into the season of your life, right? That what you're able to do and do it, right? Like they say, find that wonderful thing that makes you come alive and do more of that because then more people will show up there with you and come alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's so beautiful. So looking forward to all of these new endeavors that you're
Oh my
working
gosh.
on.
And
How
I get to play with the South Florida Writers Association, which is
yes, and
a
we
wonderful
didn't
thing.
speak about Wonder, which
I
was
wonder. Oh,
anthology
oh
Wonder.
my God.
Yeah, different stories, different authors writing about
Yeah,
whatever they perceived wonder as, which was
yeah,
really exciting and interesting to watch
yeah,
how wonder means something different to everyone.
yeah.
Because a
I
lot of the
actually,
stories are so different. What the author's take on wonder was not, I think, what initially was intended, which was, something that you marvel at. Well, wonder isn't always something you marvel at. Sometimes you wonder, how could that terrible thing have happened?
yeah,
You know?
yeah,
And so, but there were also so many stories of healing,
yeah.
and yours was one of them. So you were saying this is your first fiction story that
That
you've
I published. Yeah, no, I've been in two anthologies and I also published in another journal. But this is the first fiction, and it's about Bella Bliss asking what's it all about, right? What's it all about? What about bliss? A lot of women in middle age, or if you want to say that, I don't even know what that is anymore. But they come to a point where they've been of service to everyone else, and they finally start to think about, wait a second, life is short. We only have this once around. And then, what about my dreams? What about my hopes, my desires? And remembering, it's a remembering who you are. So that was a very wonderful experience because there's so much that you can do with fiction that's really magical. And yeah, I am so excited to share that story. A lot of emoting too there and the vulnerable nature. And then I think it's like I said, it's about really remembering what bliss means to you and me and then joining other authors on that page. And I have two more anthologies coming out this year. One is a happiness revolutionary one where that's a lot of fun. I that was a lot of fun too, because I got to write with my fellow students in my class, and then also the forgiveness, which I think one, two, and three. What about bliss? And then my second act, and then forgiving myself. I think it set me up for a really, really amazing 2026.
absolutely. It sounds like a therapy protocol.
It felt like it. I mean, that's what we said at the outset of this. Why do you write? Why do you journal? It's cathartic, it's a healing process. And plus, sometimes you have that story tapping on your shoulder, just dying to be told, and you better pay attention or it'll pop to somebody else. I heard Elizabeth Gilbert say that once, that genius taps you on the shoulder because it's for you, but if you ignore it, genius needs to be heard, so they'll find someone else who's a wealthy
Absolutely. Yeah, we,
best.
as a matter of fact, we were talking about that yesterday with Jasmine Sandoval, which is actually you're writing another for another
Yes,
anthology for
yes,
Jasmine.
yes. Well,
And
she hasn't
so mine,
accepted me yet, but I'm going to take a stab at it for sure. Yeah.
yes, well, she was just talking about that yesterday on Instagram, that the scenes of her medical thriller, there's a lot of scenes that are almost, so she was talking about that her medical thriller, not the anthology she's working on, there's a movie or show called The Pit, and in
Ah,
there
yeah,
there
yeah,
are some scenes that are very similar to what she's written,
yeah.
and she was saying, I hope people don't think that I've copied this from the show, because I wrote this before the show was out. And I wrote her and I said, well, when the universe sends out inspiration, it's fair
Yeah,
game for all, right?
yeah,
It's something
yeah,
that needs to be written, expressed in whatever art form, and whoever does it, does it. Doesn't mean you
yeah.
can't also do it. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's because what you were saying, then
Yeah.
you taps you on the shoulder. It's got to get out there. That's what inspiration is.
But you know what, interestingly enough, I could tell my story in such a way that certain people are inspired or motivated or transformed.
Mhm.
And another person would listen to the way I tell it and not be impacted at all. And you tell the same, like your, the same thing, and someone's like, "Oh my God," but I hear it differently through you. And that's the beautiful thing about everybody, doing their thing, because your audience will find you. It will find you. And when they do find you, you can be that powerful, part of their journey to have their dreams come true. While maybe I speak to certain people, they resonate in my world, other people will hear you. So whatever Jasmine writes, in her medical thriller has to come from Jasmine. And if it, I say, upon the shoulders we see, on the shoulders of giants we see further. But it doesn't mean there's any new story. It's all different renditions, right? It's all the different. I mean, we have, like, you look back in time and you're like, oh my God, that like feels like it happened like this, but it was like that. And then you're just like, well, it doesn't matter because, it's all the same themes. We have the themes of life, like, rejuvenation, transformation, redemption, like all of these themes, medical thrillers, even, they're all, told over and over like tales of mythological
Absolutely,
time. Yeah.
absolutely. And it resonates and differently with everyone. And who's meant to find that book is
Yeah.
someone that's meant to find that book. In Chinese medicine, we always say, just like you were saying, nobody's story is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even if even if it is the same, the way it's told is always different, just because it's got the person's energy to it, tagged.
Yeah.
But in Chinese medicine, we always say nobody's headache is exactly the same. There are hundreds and hundreds of different headaches.
Yeah.
Nobody's headache is ever exactly the same. Nobody's pain is ever exactly the same. So we have to treat everyone individually and independently, because
Yes.
it is. And it's the same thing with the stories. It doesn't matter if there's a story that looks so similar, and it never is exactly it. It can never be it. There can never be a Meg, another Meg. You could have a twin and she'll never be Meg, right? So same thing applies to our stories,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. What an interesting concept. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's very interesting, and the greatest storyteller is just be the best storyteller of your life. Like in a time like you're in a bad, I always say if it's a bad chapter, then turn the page and start a new one. And you've got the pen in your hand, go to it, right? Go to it. Write a better story for yourself.
absolutely. So can we expect to shine for 2026?
Yes, that's what I'm working on. So, I am I am working on it, and my intention is to have a shine for 2026, because I think that right now, the state of the world, I think we could all use a shine to empower from a place of love, joy, and even bliss. And I think that, I've met so many people whose stories will really elevate and impact and perhaps speak to many people who might be needing it right now. So my intention is to have a networking event in that way. Yes.
Absolutely. Again, and they're absolutely great. Every single one that you've ever had is absolutely great. So looking forward to that as well. Looking forward.
I did say I wanted to simplify my life this year. So, last year was the master's and I started the doctorate, and then I have young children too, and I have an older son. So it's like, with my plate, I want to enjoy everything as it comes to. So that's the other thing, the balance, the life balance, right? That we don't do so well, and we do so well. I don't know whether it does a different day, tomorrow, the next, I don't know, but yeah.
Well, I think we do it exactly how it's supposed to be done. There are no
Well,
accidents.
interestingly enough, my narrator sent me a beautiful care package. So shout out to Gina Rogers. And in it was this little tiny book and it says truth. And she made them during COVID. It was like a little Etsy, and you open the book and on the scroll, there was one scroll and there was one message. And the message said, I think this is actually a perfect message to wrap up this, is you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And then she gave me a scroll that I get to write my wishes and desires for 2026. So,
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, well, don't ever stop creating. I don't think that's ever going to be an issue for you, but
well, forget it. We're going to BookCon this year, you and me, Ceci. So even that, and I love, I back to the ally spotting. When you find your people, hold them tight, love them up, and have fun, and say yes to the opportunities as they show up. And for sure, we've had a lot of fun, and we'll have a lot more fun to come.
absolutely, yes. We've got the Mango Conference coming up next
Yep.
month. And that's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of good speakers and it's always fun. It just
Yeah.
being around, like-minded people, happy, positive people, creatives. It's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of fun. So we have a lot of things coming up, a lot of fun to be had.
Yes. Very cool.
Um,
Very cool. Very
yes.
exciting.
So Meg, where can we find your books?
So I'm on Amazon. I'm on all where all books are sold. Yeah, you can find them in my webpage. It's www.meg, M-E-G, last name is N-O-C as in Charles, E-R as a Richard O.com. If you go to my webpage, you'll be able to access my books as well. I'm all over social media. I'm on Instagram as Meg Nocero. I'm on Facebook, and YouTube. I have my Manifesting with Meg show there, so go check it out. I have an episode with Ceci, so if you want to learn more about her beautiful face is on my show. And yeah, no, I'm LinkedIn as well. So yeah, I'm all over social media.
That's great. When is the next show? When is your next podcast?
So I am about to record my 150th. It'll be in January, so it'll be this month.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
we'll post
I
those.
feel like 150 is such a marker, a time marker for me. I wanna be present and savor it, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll post on here the book information, the titles of the books, and the information about your podcast as well, and your website. So this is very exciting. This has been so much fun, Meg. Is
You're
there anything
so
else you want
good.
to
I'm so
add?
excited to be on one of your wonderful podcasts, one of the first. I love that.
Author showcase, literally speaking.
Yeah, I love
Yeah, I'm
it.
excited about it too, because I get to hear so many stories and be able to go in a little bit deeper with
Yeah,
each other. So I'm really loving it. So
yeah.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on. And
Thank
anything else
you.
you want to add before we close up?
I will add just one thing because I think this is kind of, for me, a game changer. I always love Rumi's quote, "The universe is rigged in my favor," coupled with the wonderful Pam Grout's statement, "Something wonderful is always about to happen." So when you start your day with both of those, maybe have a pen and paper so you can take it all down to see what magic comes your way. So thank you all. If you do pick up the Magical Guide to Bliss, be sure to message me on Instagram or on my webpage, and I will do my wonderful intention picking with you. So for
So much
sure.
fun. So much fun. Thank you so much, Meg. Thank you for coming on Author Showcase.
Thank you,
And
Ceci.
yes, we'll see you soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye bye.